Was it necessary for USC to lose 6 games in 2024 just so they can finally learn how to play by the rules?
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I am your host, Mark Holkin, and thanks for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day. Whether you're watching this show on YouTube, you can pick your platform, you can download this podcast. The show is always free, and I always appreciate your support. Today's episode is brought to you by TurboTax. Ready for stress-free taxes and the most money back guaranteed? Head over to TurboTax.com today and get matched with your expert. What if USC won more games in 2024? Yeah. Let's pretend USC won 9 games last year instead of the 6 regular season games. Would Lincoln Riley and the football program have made the same offseason moves that they've already made so far? I mean, we know that they're going to be making moves, but would they have made these moves? I mean, was it an epiphany? Or was it actually necessary for Coach Riley to take a few gut punches and, finally say, you know what, USC, we need to stand up and fight back? So what happens if USC went 9-3 last year? I mean, I think a lot of Trojan fans would have taken that based on the schedule that was played. But if USC wins 9 games, and I'm just talking about regular season, obviously they would have had a much better postseason bowl game. They might even have been on the outside looking into a playoff opportunity. That's not where I'm going with this. If USC had won 9 games, though, do they go after Chad Bowden at Notre Dame? Does Chad, put on his cardinal and gold cape? What about NIL? I mean, you probably would see an uptick in NIL because you're seeing progress with the program. 9 wins in 2024. You had 8 the year before. So you probably see a little bit of a trickle up effect. But does it make the same precipitous leap that we've been at least kind of getting a vibe for this offseason based on the 2026 recruiting class, the way it's being built, the players that USC was able to close in the 2025 recruiting class? I bring it up because I think it's an interesting question, because had USC won 9 games against that tough schedule, while you're also adjusting to a new conference, sometimes that can offer a false sense of achievement. And then you got certain people, that hold the power at USC, football head coach, athletic director. They start believing, hey, you know what, the program's going in the right direction. Maybe we don't need to go all in and just write checks to whoever's asking for money. I'm talking about recruiting. I think, though, sometimes you have to hit rock bottom to appreciate the good stuff. I mean, 2024 wasn't rock bottom. It's not like USC went 3-8 like they did back in, 91 with Larry Smith. That was the year they beat Penn State but lost to Memphis at the Coliseum. That was rock bottom. We're close to it. But last year, it just felt like the program was stuck in neutral. I knew USC was going to be making changes this offseason. But would it have been this dramatic? Maybe it feels more dramatic because of the way 2024 went. But it's like someone said, Jen Cohen told the football program, here's a blank check. It's signed. Go do what you need to do. This was like her final ultimatum. Whatever it takes. I mean, obviously, NIL is playing a role in USC's recruiting resurgence. No doubt about that. Everybody's willing to own that. That's the way the game's played now. But besides that, USC also stepped up. They made that financial investment to make sure that Antonlynn didn't go take the job at Penn State. I mean, that cannot be overlooked. That's another sign of USC serious. They want to keep the continuity. They want to have the best coaching staff in the country, and you have to pay for it. I mean, some may agree or disagree, but USC, did they pay above sticker price for Notre Dame's general manager? Is that a step in the right direction? I know that's the new cool thing. Every program needs to have a general manager. But that's just the direction, the way the game's going right now. You need somebody who can manage the purse strings, put together a recruiting board, take as much off the head coach's plate as possible, kiss the babies, shake the hands, do the fundraiser stuff, yada, yada, yada. Rob Ryan, I think, is going to be a huge addition to the staff, as well as Chad Savage and Trevon Reed. Again, would all of this have come together, this coaching staff, the investment with NIL, had USC won 9 games last year? So what finally made USC say, whoever the powers that be that they're making the decisions finally say, fix it. I don't care how much it costs. Get it done. Being strategic, planning the long game. When you're planning for your financial future, that's the way to do it. Play the long game. But that doesn't work when you're trying to win football games. It doesn't. Nobody has patience for, he needs 5 years. What happened to, you got 3 years to turn the program around? Now, it depends what the situation was. When it comes to winning football games, you cannot play the long game. You don't have that much time anymore. First of all, especially with the transfer portal, you just don't have that luxury. You really don't. You can talk about building the right type of culture in the locker room, but again, NIL is the first and foremost thing you're dealing with when it comes to recruiting. Everything after that is secondary. So was that the lesson learned? I mean, if you don't believe me, USC was paying players who are already on the roster, guys who have earned it. We can ask Bear Alexander. We can ask Emmanuel Prayon, Zachariah Branch, Deuce Robinson. How was that locker room culture? Or was it, hey, you know what? The culture is pay me. Pay me to play. I really think it's good. Comparing eras has always been a challenge. But I think it's going to be really difficult going forward to compare eras. I mean, how do you grade great coaches like John McKay and Bear Bryant and Woody Hayes and Bo Schembechler, and then you take that next step? When those guys were done, you had John Robinson, Pete Carroll, Urban Meyer, Nick Saban. And then you want to compare those eras when NIL was below the table and not being used nearly to the extent it's being used today above the table. You want to compare those guys with Ryan Day, Dane Lanning. I mean, we're talking about programs who needed to have their teams bought and paid for. So that's where we're at now. We just have to accept that. 2024 was necessary to really drive that point home to the folks that are running USC's athletic department, their football program. I'm not saying Jim Cohn didn't understand this and didn't know this. I think USC was really holding out hope that they didn't have to go this direction. So does it matter? Does it really matter if Lincoln Riley's a great head coach? I don't. The jury's still out on that. We're still writing the book. He's still really young in his career. But do you have to be a great head coach? You have to be a Pete Carroll, a Nick Saban, a Woody Hayes. Do you have to? Do you have to be that special? Be considered one of the elite head coaches when you can get everything, pretty much at the push of a button, by the stroke of a hand on a check. I don't know. Maybe 2024 was necessary for USC to, finally turn into Veruca Salt from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and say, "I want it now, Daddy." Well, we're there. USC's given Lincoln Riley everything he could possibly ask for to make sure 6-win regular seasons don't happen again during his tenure. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop managing your money and start building your wealth. You're going to love the all-in-one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch Money to check your finances, track spending, even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. You can see it right there in the banner. Take advantage. USC held its pro day on Wednesday. You're watching this episode of Locked on USC Thursday, the 13th. It's kind of funny. I got to bring this up. It hardly ever rains in LA, but it seems to rain whenever USC is holding their pro day. Seriously, this has got to be at least the third year in a row, probably fourth year in a row. It rains whatever USC has all the NFL scouts hanging out on campus so these guys can test. So you had 15 draft eligible Trojans hanging out on inside Allison Felix Stadium. I get confused. Is it still Loker Stadium? Is it Allison Felix track? Whatever. That's where they do their workouts. And these are the 15 guys who were there. You had Achille Arnold, Easton Mascarenas Arnold, Mason Cobb, Jacoby Covington, Eddie Czaplisky, Kyle Ford, John Humphreys, Michael Lance, Woody Marks, Gavin Meyer, Jonah Monheim, Jamil Muhammad, Bryson Shaw, Jalen Smith, and Greedy Vance. And from the 2023 roster, you had Jack Casasante, the long snapper. So he hasn't given up his dream of playing in the NFL. Here's some, I guess, bullet points, takeaways from Wednesday's action, so to speak. Some guys who maybe you thought had a chance to get drafted. I'm not going to go through the entire list, but Achille Arnold, he's a safety. Speed isn't his thing. He ran a 4.69 40. That's not good. When you play defensive backfield and you want to play in the NFL, you got to run faster than molasses. Sorry. So the long number speed isn't there, but if you look at the quick agility drills, strength and quickness, his best performance was on the bench In fact, when you're comparing him to other safeties, he was able to rip off 20. He had a 4.24 shuttle, which was pretty good. That would have actually put him second best at the combine. And his 6.9 performance, 6.90 second performance in the 3-cone drill would have been third best. So I guess it's really going to come down to, are you looking for the guy who looks the best in underwear and t-shirts, or are you looking at the guy who understands the game, might not have, the natural intangibles, the speed, those types of things. Jacoby Covington, he looks the part. Okay, he looks the role. Always has. 6'2", 200 pounds. But when you play cornerback, 4'6", again, he looks the part. You like the way he plays the game. Is an NFL team are they gonna make him a draft player? Are they gonna say, hey, you know what? We're drafting you, come on into camp, or is he going to be one of those undrafted free agents? He's probably a 6th or 7th round guy. Kyle Ford, one of my personal favorites. I don't know. I think he might have to end up playing H-back at the next level if he gets to play in the NFL. That 4'7", 240, not good when you're playing wide receiver. Not good. And now you could say, well, hey, Mark, don't forget, Kyle had a couple of knee injuries. Absolutely. Teams will take that into consideration. But again, he's kind of a tweener. He kind of looks and runs like a tight end, but he plays wide receiver. That's what I'm thinking. Find a role. Find a team that likes to use the H-back. I think Kyle could excel at that position at the next level. I'll tell you who might have had the best day for Pro Day. Easton Mascarenas. Yeah. 4.5840. Not bad. You look at him and he doesn't look fast. He can scoot. In fact, his 40 time would have been tied for number 6 at the NFL Combine. That would have put him there with Mondin from Georgia and Carson Bruner from Washington. That dude's getting a lot of looks, a lot of love from the NFL. Excuse me. And Easton also ripped off 25 reps on the bench press, which put him just one off the leaders at the combine. He had a 4.28 shuttle, and he also had a 10-foot broad jump. So he's got a lot of power, below the waist. It might look like he's short in stature. Dude's an athlete. I don't know if he's worked his way into the draft, but like I said, he had a really good day nonetheless. As far as Jonah Monheim, he didn't do any testing. He did, some of the positional, skill type of drills that they'll put you through. He's still working his way back. He said he's healthy, but he was dealing with a hamstring. So, the people he's working with, as far as his advisors getting him ready for the NFL, they probably said, you know what, you showed enough. You talked to every team at the Senior Bowl. You've talked to every NFL team in the NFL. You're good to go. Just interview well. You're going to get drafted. I don't know how much this affects his draft. I don't think a lot. I think Jonah has put enough on film that he doesn't need to go out there and run around and show everybody how fast he is. Just watch how he plays football. And understand that Jonah is willing to sacrifice and do whatever it takes to help the team. I mean, think about he's played every position on USC's offensive line in his 5 years that he was there. That's crazy. Left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, right tackle. He did it all. Jalen Smith, like I said, I think he's gonna surprise some people. He's gonna surprise some people. I'm thinking fourth round. With his speed, his cover ability, and his versatility. Not only can he play corner, But there's probably going to be some NFL teams that say, hey, you know what? You got the size and the tenacity and the aggressiveness. You can also play nickel for us. So what he brings to the table is going to be beneficial. Greedy Vance, again, you like the way he plays the game, but how many NFL teams are drafting guys who run 4.6s? Not a lot. It's not a lot. And he doesn't have exceptional size. So, he's going to have to really show his football savvy, his football IQ. And whatever he's done in games, that film is going to have to sell. Something you might notice, in fact, when you're done watching this episode of Locked On USC, get on over there to werc.com. Eric McKinney put together some of his notes as well. And one of the things that people that are kind of capturing is the size of the players that USC is putting out today that are, they've exhausted their college eligibility. They're ready to play, hopefully follow their dream of playing the NFL. You compare the size of those guys to who USC is bringing in 2025, who they're recruiting in 2026. There's a noticeable difference. There's a noticeable difference between USC's old roster and the roster they're building now. And I know they inflate numbers. You're looking at if you're looking at the 2025 and the 2026 recruiting guide and saying, oh, well, Cameron Fountain is 6'8", and I'm exaggerating. When you do the NFL Combine, you do the pro days, that's when the NFL's measuring you. So all of a sudden, when you were listed on USC's media guide at 6'3", all of a sudden you're 6'1" and 1/8. So again, when you're looking at players, you could do they pass the eyeball test? How many guys does USC have on their roster today that look like first guys off the bus? They got a lot more today than they did 2 years ago. So hopefully next year's pro day and the pro days after that, it'll stop raining and you'll have more players that are not only draft eligible, that are looking to improve their draft status from, late round drafts to first, second day, third day. That's where the money is. You don't want to be drafted on Saturday. You want to do it when it's on national TV. Everybody's tuned in. Day one, day two. All right, we got one more segment to go. Guess what we're going to talk about? The men did it. 1 down, 4 more to go. This is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Texas was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back this year, and then waiting, wondering, worrying some more. Now, Texas is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. All so you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now, this is taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only with the iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. When you have to win 5 games to make the big dance, I'm going to make a suggestion. Don't play a double overtime game in game 1 just so you get the chance to play Purdue. It's not the best way to go about it. But that's what happens when you blow a 15-point lead and you give up 21 turnovers and give the other team 31 points off of those 21 turnovers. With that said, USC won in double overtime. They beat Rutgers 97-89. And Coach Musselman can keep his record perfect. He is now 10-0 in conference tournament opening games. It wasn't looking good there in the second half of this game, though, let me tell you. Both teams came into the game 15-16 during the regular season. Rutgers was the 11th ranked. USC was the 14th ranked out of the 15 teams in the Big Ten tournament. Now, in this game, USC got off to, they brought their defense. I'll give them that. Offensively, got off to a little bit of a slow start, but it picked up quickly. It was good to see them bring their defense, and it was good to see them bring an effort, especially after that abortion that they laid against UCLA. They had 21 turnovers against Rutgers in game one of this tournament. Don't forget, their last game of the season, they had 20 turnovers. Yeesh. So again, USC brought the defense. They brought the effort. Now, maybe one way to cut down on the turnovers, learn how to break a 2-2-1 full court press. I used to coach high school basketball, and I'm watching this, and I'm going, what in the heck is Coach Muss and his staff teaching these guys? What is he telling them during the timeouts? Because they kept doing the same thing over and over and over again. It was hard to watch. It was a short lineup. And when I say a short lineup, Coach Muss did not go to the bench. He played his starters, and I think two guys off the bench, Matt Noling and Slackert. That was it. So it was Desmond Claude, Wesley Yates, Rashawn Agee, St. Thomas. Who am I forgetting? Buzo, Agbo. I apologize, Buzo. It wasn't intentional. USC, so they brought their defense. In fact, USC led the game in the first half. It was 15-7 with just under 12 minutes to play in the first half. And they got there by, like I said, playing defense. And that led to an 8-0 run. They did that in under 2 minutes. They went on a 13-2 run over a 5-minute period. So they kept Rutgers scoreless for 4 minutes. And then they kept the defense going for the next 4 minutes after that timeout. And they actually increased their lead to 24-12. And as I mentioned, they had it built up to 15 points. I mean, when there was less than 8 minutes to play in the first half, Rutgers was shooting just 28% from the field, USC 42%. They were shooting free throws. They were 9 for 9 in the first half. Rashawn Agee was 7 out of 7. You might have heard me mention this before on a previous episode of Locked on USC. I wish there was a way USC can find Agee one more year. I love the way he plays the game. Just a lot of heart. He's a blue collar dude. And you want as many of those types of guys on your roster as possible. Now, USC had an 11-point halftime lead. In the second half, it was much like the first half of the first few minutes. And then there was that under 16-minute media timeout. USC still led by 10 points. It was 48-38. But coming out of that timeout, USC crapped their pants. They just started doing stupid stuff. Literally, within 45 seconds, that lead was cut down to 5. As I mentioned, Coach Muss needs to show these guys how to attack a 2-2-1 press. It's not that difficult. Put somebody at mid-court, your biggest, tallest guy. Stop fanning out and going to the sideline, because that's where you trap yourself. Yeah, I don't know how many times they did that, but 3 times in a row. 7 turnovers in a 2.5 minutes time span. All of a sudden, the lead was cut down to 1. Brand new ballgame. It was hard to watch. I mean, the fact that this team pulled it out, you give them a lot of credit. That was a gut check. I mean, it went double overtime. Now they were fortunate to actually get it to overtime. I hate Big Ten officiating. It didn't have a big effect on the game, but Big Ten officiating just sucks donkey. It's so inconsistent. But there you go. USC, they pulled out the win, big win. They can say, hey, you know what? At least we won a game in the tournament. That helps a little bit with recruiting. Look, I like the direction Coach Muss has the program going. And this game was hard to watch. There's a part of me that's saying, you know what? Let's just end the season already. They're not going to win 5 games. They're not going to get to the big dance. And I'll tell you what, if they somehow get past Purdue, you just got to give these guys a lot of credit. Because again, you're playing a double overtime game. And then you got to turn around and play the next day. We'll see what happens. But it is what it is. Right now, team 16-16. Can they get a win against Purdue, take on Michigan, who will be waiting at getting that double bye? If you get by Purdue, who knows what happens, right? Who knows? It's going to take a miracle, though. It's going to take a miracle. I talked about it before. I broke down the bracket. So if you missed yesterday's episode, go check it out. But the men advance, live to play another day. I will advance. We'll play another day. We'll have another episode of Locked On USC tomorrow. I'll have a Friday rant. We'll see what that's all about. Maybe USC will be done taking a day off from recruiting. We'll have some more commits. Who knows? So until that next episode, everyone, you know what to do.